Hello again, everybody, and welcome to this podcast. This is a very special podcast for me because I have with us Thomas Coles Reyes. He is a disabled veteran of the Vietnam era. He is a visionary founder and CEO of Vets Place Inc., where he also serves as the chairman of the board. His journey to commitment to supporting veterans began way back through his roles in New York City with mayors John Lindsay and David Dinkins from 72 and 73, and then again from 1990 to 93. Now, inspired by these experiences, Thomas dedicated himself to addressing the unmet needs of veterans and their families. And in 2010, equipped with veterans programs and driven by unwavering determination, Thomas established Vets Place Inc. in West Palm Beach. So welcome to the show, Thomas. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you here, and thank you so much for your service.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Bruce. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you very much.
So I have lots of questions to ask, Thomas, because you're such an inspirational guest. So can you share your background and experience as a USAF veteran?
Well, I'll. You already told the people that are watching and listening that I am from New York City. I got drafted into the military in 1971, and I had decided that I didn't want to go into the Army, so I I decided to try to pick some other branch of service, and I was told that I would have to take the test to do that, and if I did fail the test, then I would end up going in the Army anyway. So at that time, we didn't have computers. So I had to go to the library, and I got this huge book, Ruth, and I'm telling you, the book was huge. And I actually studied very hard, and I passed the test, and I chose the Air Force. I don't know, at the time, I was pretty young. I was not even 18 yet. I might have chose it because I like planes and I like the color blue. So anyway, I passed, and I took my oath in Brooklyn, New York, and that was the first time I even went on a plane to Lackland Air Force Base, which is a training base for me. Anyway, I have to tell you, Bruce, my experience being in the Air Force or the military service was a great piece for me as a young man. It shaped my perspective on life and service. The discipline and camaraderie and dedication that I experienced in the Air Force was fundamental in my life's work. These experiences, they actually had a deep piece in deciding a lot about how I was going to go about whatever I decided to do with my life after getting out. So I would probably say, because of all of those things that I just mentioned, and that deep sense of duty and support to my fellow veterans, that's one of the reasons why I ended up founding Vets Place.
So, Thomas, we may have run into each other down in Varick Street, because in 71, or maybe it was 72 by then, I got a very low draft number. And so low that I had to go down to Varick Street, even though I was going to school in Boston. And it was not a fun trip for me. It scared the daylights out of me, because I saw hundreds and hundreds of young boys with those big green packs on their backs, heading out to who knows where. So I'll tell you, I give you a lot of credit. And it sounds like to me that that camaraderie thing that you talked about is everything. It means everything. And it's probably why you stayed with it even after you left. So I give you a lot of credit for it. And I'm sure it's what inspired you to start Vet's Place. And tell me about the initial vision that you had for that.
Well, I probably would say, Bruce, that my vision for Vet's Place, even though I didn't even have a name at that time, and I'll tell you how I ended up with that. It started by when I came home and there were no support systems set up for the Vietnam veterans coming home. I particularly had a unique situation because I have no family. I was raised in an orphanage. So when I came home, I had no place to live. So at that time, in order for you to get a discount on the plane, you had to dress in full uniform. So I came home with a duffel bag, a small bag, and a full uniform to sleep on a park bench.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So the next day, I tried to find what type of service that I could get involved in so I wouldn't have to be homeless. And that's when I ended up finding out that there were a lot more other veterans that were also facing the same situation. I was blocks and blocks of veterans waiting online for some sort of service, which is how I ended up getting involved with Mayor Lindsay. And it started my journey in thinking about the time I spent on the task force with both mayors and looking at the unmet needs and the challenges that we were facing. I started to formulate a program in my mind then. I just didn't realize it. It wasn't until I actually moved to Florida and started working for a veterans organization here as a program specialist that I realized that I had that potential to actually put together a program that would really make a difference for veterans, not only due to the many experiences I've had in education in that area, but also because of my own personal experience. It made me feel as though that I was driven to understand the importance of putting together a program that truly addressed the veterans' needs and not something where it just gave them some temporary relief. My whole vision, as far as a program is concerned, is to eventually put a veteran on their feet with a job if that's what they want, or and permanent housing, not temporary housing, and then also things like education, if that's what they want, or if they want a housing, because I've had veterans with me who actually bought their first home through us. So there are a lot of things that I didn't realize at the time in formulating Vet's Place, but as the time went on, it turned out that all the experience and knowledge and education I got from the years of dealing with some of the politics of New York City as well as Palm Beach County has taught me a lot of things about how to address certain things that veterans need that they go through when they have to jump through hoops. So that's how I actually got the Vet's Place envisioned in my mind as far as how to put together the program. So
I have always had such a open heart for the veterans and just knowing that as they came back to this country, how poorly they were treated by citizens, by the country, by politicians. Not only was it embarrassing, but it was horrifying and humiliating to see that instead of these people coming home as heroes, they were scorned and left on their own with very few tools. But before we go any further, one of the most interesting parts of the conversation that we had a few weeks ago was how you ended up in not the political realm, but how you ended up with Mayor Lindsay. I'd love to hear more about that.
Well, uh, when I heard about they were giving out free money to address housing and food at a certain location. So I went to that location, and that's where I saw blocks and blocks of veterans waiting online. And I asked the question, okay, why are we waiting online? What's going on? And nobody actually knew why they were online other than they heard that that's where they could get service. And I never mentioned what I did in the military is I actually worked for an NCO school, which is a non-commissioned officer school, and I taught leadership. So I decided that I guess in that sense that I would take ownership of the situation, and I said to everyone that I met online, I said it's very cold outside because it was late September, and New York is pretty chilly. And I said, okay, how about us getting a couple of dollars together and get some coffee and donuts? And everyone agreed. So we went and we just kind of passed the hat all the way down. And then I went with someone else and we brought the coffee and donuts back, but I noticed that the line did not move. So I said, okay, I'm going to go up to the front and find out what's going on. Well, I noticed that nobody was really answering my questions or whatever. I just slipped into the building. I went up in the elevator and I found a older gentleman who was, it seemed like he was just fooling around with the young girls upstairs. And when I asked the question who he was, I was told his name, and he was the head of that particular location. So I tried to address him and tell him, do you know what's going on outside? And we really need some help or whatever. And he called security on me and had me thrown out the building. So when I found out that he was an appointee to the mayor, I called up Lindsay's office and I got his aide, and he said, okay, try these two numbers, and if you don't get through, call me back. And I said, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. I know that you're just trying to get rid of me. He said, no, seriously. And for some reason, I believed him, so I called the two numbers. I didn't get anywhere. So I called back, and he put me right through to Lindsay. And I told Lindsay what was going on, and Lindsay told me to just wait on the line. Don't say anything. I'll hear the whole conversation, but don't say anything. And he called this guy up. And the man sounded like he was just shaking in his boots over the phone. And at that point, Lindsay told me to go back and that if I had any problems, to let him know. Well, I went back, and the gentleman who was running the place felt like I was a special friend, possibly to Lindsay, and he just wanted to give me service. And I told him, no, that's not going to work. Okay, we need to get all of these veterans taken care of, and you need to find a way to do it instead of being upstairs doing whatever you were doing. So at that point, that's when it started. And because of what I did and how I handled the situation, I was asked to be put into the mayor's task force to address these issues of veterans coming home.
That's excellent. What just one of the many inspiring stories that I discovered listening to you and your life. So let's bring it back up to 2010. And can you describe the process and the challenges you faced when establishing Vets Place in this area here?
Well, I tell you, Bruce, as I said before, I'm from New York, and I didn't know anything about Florida at all. And to me, it's like a strange country. But my wife and her mother and sister lived down here, and we decided that we were going to move down here and get away from New York because it was just after the World Trade Center fell, and we just felt we needed to leave. So when I came down here, I didn't know exactly what I would be doing. I wasn't even thinking about a program or anything, but like I said before, I actually did end up working for a veterans organization. But after I left that organization, something just came over me. I can't tell you what it might have been, but I just felt very strongly that I needed to do something based on what I had saw and heard as I worked for the other place that I mentioned. So I I decided to put pen to paper and I wrote up a program. And then I said, well, okay, now I have a program here, but now I need to implement this program. How am I going to go about doing it? And I went downtown West Palm Beach and I walked around, and all of a sudden I was inspired by a piece of land. And on this piece of land was two small apartments, a business building, and a small house and a parking lot. And I said, this is perfect. This is Vet's Place. And that's how the name popped up. I said, okay, this is the place. So I said, all right, how am I going to go about acquiring this land? So I found out by going online who the owners were. And I called up, and the woman was very nice, and she listened to me, and she said, listen, come over to my house, and you'll be able to pitch your program in my dining room. I'll give you an hour and a half. Okay. And I went over there, and I pitched it. And after I was finished, she not only gave me the land to use it for Vet's Place, but she also asked me if she could pay for the telephone and internet service. So that's how I acquired the land for Vet's Place. And the rest of it was very difficult because, like I said, I'm not really from here, but I had made some connections with some Congress people and city officials and various other people. At the time, the mayor of West Palm Beach was Lois Frankel, and her son was in the military, and Lois was very helpful to me. So I went to the VA and I said, I have a program, and and I want to work with other veterans, and I understand you have a need for permanent affordable housing for veterans and their families, which is the first time that elevator speech actually came out of my mouth. So they said, well, okay, we have other people in the social department, social services department, who would like to hear about your program. So I said, okay. They said, can you come over in the next couple of days and we'll get it together and pitch a program? I said, sure. So I did do that. I was amazed when I came in at the amount of individuals that were actually there to listen to what I had to say. And there was a few doctors and a few nurses. So I just stepped up and I said what I had to say. Nobody raised their hand. Nobody asked a question. I said, okay, I think I just bombed, and I didn't even realize it. When I stepped off, because they had a little, like a stage there, when I stepped off, all of a sudden everyone came to me and said, how do we refer people to you? How does this work? So at that point, I did do that, and I was asked to come upstairs to the administrative office in the building there. In the building there was the West Palm Beach Medical Center, and I was given a contract, the first federal contract I ever had, which I was completely surprised. So I was given some money to help with the first stage of my program. So I used that to basically offset the rent. The way that I considered people paying rent at Vet's Place was based on need. Everyone had a different salary or money coming in, so therefore it wasn't the same across the board. And wherever I needed to apply the money from the VA's contract, I would do that to offset their rent. But the funny thing on how this all got started when I first started renting, before I even got the contract, Ruth, was that I had some people from my old program who wanted to come with me, and I told them I had a housing piece, and they said, "Okay, I want to go with you." So I said, "Okay." So I used their security deposit to clean the apartment, and then I moved them in, and it was an elderly couple. And from there, I got the idea this is how I'll be able to do it. So each time when I rented, I would get the security deposit and I would clean the apartment until I had cleaned them all and had them all filled. And that's how I got all of the apartments filled up. I had about probably 20 veterans. And uh, shortly after that, as I said, I got the contract with the VA. I had the VA bring a bus to pick up the guys and take them for their medical appointments. Um, and then I started to realize some other things that were going on. I didn't want to be a referral service and send my veterans all over the place, okay, because we have to go through a lot of hoops when we're trying to get something done. So I took the test to become a veteran service officer so I could address their claims. I also became a notary so I could do documents for them as well. And then I established a food pantry. And instead of going and getting food that might be 3, 4 days old or whatever, I just went to the supermarkets. I told them who I was, what I was trying to do. And they said, bring your van or whatever it is and load up. And so I established that. I went to a bakery so I could get fresh bread every day. And then I wanted a clothing closet because I wanted the veterans to be able to have clothes to be able to look for work or if they had a job to be able to have something decent to wear. So I went to the VA to discuss that. I didn't even realize that the VA actually had clothes from various different department stores. So I went in there and I looked, I saw tags still on the clothes. I said, "Oh, this is great." They said, "Get a van and take as much as you want." And I did that, and that established my clothing closet. And every night before I left, I would have what I would call sort of like a kumbaya kind of a thing, where the vets would sit down in this area that we had designated, and we would talk about their day. And I would get an idea from that whether or not anybody was going through some issues with some problems or whatever, so I could address those before they got out of hand. So that was a typical way of establishing a typical day at Best Place.
You are just such an inspirational guy, Thomas, and it touches home on so many levels because, number one, like I told you before, I was there. I was down in Varick Street, and if I hadn't had this hockey football injury with my knee, uh, and I did have that, so they said, "Well, come back in 6 months, and then we'll, have to draft you then." And 6 months later, they abolished the draft, or 5 months later, or 4 months later. So I was not the best candidate to go and fight a war. I knew that, and but I'm glad that that part didn't work out. But I've had such a sore spot for uh, veterans, and that's why I wanted you to be on this show because I feel so deeply for them. So I'm sure you've had some great success stories that you can tell us along the way.
I probably have way too many for the short period of time that we're going to be talking, but let's see if I can come up with a couple. Um, During the early stages of Vets Plays, uh, and by the way, we had males and females there because one of my promises I was made to myself, and maybe that's due to my own past, is that I would never break up a family. So we had families there. And one of the family members invited his sister, who became homeless, to live with him because these were two-bedroom apartments that I was renting. Anyway, for some reason or another, and I didn't encourage, but for some reason or another, she met another veteran there. She wasn't a veteran, but he was. And for some reason or another, they started dating and they ended up falling in love. And I ended up marrying them. So they moved away, and they kept in contact with me. And one day, I got a text or email or something from them saying that they wanted to come back to West Palm, and they wanted to know if I still had bed space or if I still had something that they could come to, because they wanted to come back and stay at one of my places or whatever, and that they were still married, and they told me about their experience together, and the fact that it was strengthened by some things that had transpired there in what I had in the program. So I was deeply touched, but unfortunately I did not have anything available at the time. But I did say to them when they did come back, then obviously I would try to help them the best way I could. But to this very day, they're happily married. They've been probably married now for maybe 12 years. So that's great. I have another one where I had a gentleman who was a pilot for one of the airlines, and when he was drafted to fly one of the Huey helicopters in Vietnam. When he came back and finished his time with that airline until he retired. But I tell you, Bruce, what hurt me the most is that it took probably maybe 7 years later before he encountered his PTSD episodes. He became such a different person. It affected him in so many ways, but he was such a generous man. He obviously had a nice pension coming in, and he did receive a pension from the military, but his retirement from the airlines was pretty substantial. He used to come to my office and say, who's behind their rent? Who needs some help or whatever? Don't tell anybody that it's from me or whatever. And sometimes he just put an envelope under my door and say, I know you know who it is, but don't tell anybody, kind of thing. He was such a character, Captain Townsend. He passed away. But he was such a character. But when he started to fall apart and become a different person that he didn't recognize anymore, he started to leave the facility and disappear at weeks at a time. I had to go looking for him and try to find him or whatever. And then the last time I found him and brought him home, he had told me he got diagnosed with cancer. And he just wanted to stay there until such time. And he gave me directions on what to do when he passed, which is what I did. I honored his. But those are two stories that really stick in my head.
You, Thomas, are the backbone of what makes America great. And I certainly, in some little way that I can, want to be a part of what you're doing and how you're doing it. When I read something about something called She Served program and how it supports female veterans. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Okay, I'm never been a person that's been afraid to develop a program where some people might feel that it has so many difficulties and moving parts that they shy away from it. One day, I decided that I really wanted to address the females that served in the armed forces, they were just as important as the males were. So I sat down and I thought long and hard about how I can do them the credit that they deserve. So I came up with this program called She Serves, which stands for Supporting, Empowering, um, and what is that? I'm sorry, reuniting and valuing every dedicated female veteran. That's it. For a lot of words, but this program itself will take a look at the unique issues that female veterans have compared to males. Obviously, childcare, coming back after a long period of time of being deployed and maybe being married and being different, estranged from their husband and family members. And then, of course, the things that we've heard a lot about, rape issues and things like that. We like to also deal with addressing their child care, and also their leadership skills, which are different from ours, our roles that we have established in society as far as what men do in their households and women what they do. And obviously, when a woman has come back from the military, she's not just the average housewife anymore. So, those roles have been changed, and I wanted to be able to have a program to address those issues and be able to, at the same time, give women opportunity to be proud of their time in the service, and also understand that they were no different. I don't consider them in my heart and mind that they're any different than the males that I deal with or take care of at this place.
Thomas, you mentioned PTSD. My wife equally feels passionate about helping veterans and people suffering from PTSD. She actually works with a company where they have a wonderful product that works with the mind. And I'll talk to you more about that another time, but I did want to mention that because it's something that really helps. So we'll talk about that another time. Are you looking to gain a competitive edge? Imagine a tool that boosts your mental game to match your present physical capabilities. Introducing the ultimate headset designed to elevate your focus, sharpen your concentration, and help you relax. With this cutting edge technology, you can train your brain to visualize success, enhance your motivation, and reduce recovery time by creating a heightened mental state. It's like having a personal sports psychologist on demand. Join the ranks of top athletes who are already harnessing the power of brainwaves for that all important mental advantage. Are you ready to push your limits and be the best version of yourself? It's time to gear up and get ahead. Let's make those goals a reality. For more information on how you can get your game changing headset, drop a comment or send a message. Let's win this together. Can you explain how you collaborate with community partners and builders and the VA Medical Center to provide housing and other services for veterans?
Well, I tell you, Bruce, if I had to go anywhere and probably ask for something for myself, I'm a little shy and withdrawn as far as trying to address that. But when it comes to bringing the attention to whether or not it's political people or people in the community, whatever, I don't have a problem with it. I'm probably, because of my background coming from New York, I'm just a bold stepper. I just step right up and say, well, okay, listen, I heard that you have a service. I don't know if this is correct or not, but I heard you have a service. Okay, I'd like to hear more about it. Okay. And after I hear about it, then I said, well, okay, I think we can partner together. I think there's something of value that we can share. And on that level, that's how I end up partnering with people. Right now, I am partnering with quite a few people that really work with our program, such as Career Source of Palm Beach County, to address the employment and other issues that they have under their roof, as well as the Wounded Veterans Relief Fund, which I'm very fond of, and they have embraced our program as well. The 22 project, which falls into the area of what you were talking about with your wife, for individuals such as myself with PTSD. They have the two treatments that they address: hyperbaric chamber and also another treatment as well. And then we also are partnered with Compass for our gay veterans. And right now we're trying to work with other partnerships as well to make it as rounded as possible, because I don't like my veterans to have to walk off the street and go to a place and then find out that they're not going through the right procedure. We open the door for them by making these partnerships to make it easier for them to be able to get the service that they need and want. So I will continue to make more partnerships with people. I will continue to make the message known, and I will continue to do as much as I can to address the unmet needs of veterans until I am no longer able to.
Wonderful. Again, wonderful. So, we're getting down to the nitty gritty here. What are the key objectives and future plans for Vets Place? And how can the community get involved and support your mission?
Okay. I have taken a look at some of the unmet needs of the particular area where I'm at, which is Palm Beach County, but we are spreading a little further south as well. And you already heard about the She Served program, but I've had a program for a long period of time called the SAVE program, which stands for Serving at-Risk Veterans in Emergencies. It's a temporary program that just addressed a short-term emergency. Give you an example, I used to get called by the VA on a Friday, and they said, well, okay, we can't help this person until one Monday or maybe Tuesday if there's a holiday on Monday. Could you house them? You know, and I'd say, well, okay, I have the money to do that. I have a contract with a couple of hotels, and I just put them up, okay, and make sure that they're fed and everything, and until the time where they are able to go and finish what they have to do. Then I've had a long-term program called Boots to Suits, which is an employment training and entrepreneur workshop. Every veteran, including myself, doesn't necessarily always want to work for somebody. Maybe they want to have their own business. Well, through our entrepreneur workshop, we will help them to decide whether or not that's something that they can do. And if they find that that's something that they desire to do, they will get the basics. They will be in contact with different organizations that will help them get started, if it's seed money or whatever the case might be, and be on their way. And as far as employment is concerned, one of the things that I'm a certified employment person for this area as well. And I've always believed very heavily on additional education. Doesn't matter whether or not you're going to college. You can also do a lot of training courses or whatever. It's important to always keep abreast of what's happening. So I have continuous education credits myself. I do whatever I can online. It's a beautiful thing to be able to do. There are a lot of veterans that may come out of the military, and what they did in the military is not something that's available here and in civilian world. So retraining is extremely important. So we are able to ascertain what their strengths and weaknesses are and work on those and help them with their resumes and their interviewing skills, and then put them in hopefully in the right places as far as growth in a business. And then we have a new program that we're about to come out with, which is called VEEP. Okay, VEEP stands for Veterans Expungement to Employment Program. There are some veterans that unfortunately got themselves a little scrap and they got a little racket. So it's keeping them from being able to move into an area of employment they'd like. So I have put this program together, and I am getting some community partners like lawyers and various other individuals to help me with the expungement process, so that can help them out. So these are things that that we have currently available. Now, the other services that I still have connections with the food bank. So if need be, they need food, I can do a referral for that so they can get food and schedule a regular pickup situation. I'm a notary, so I can still notarize documents for them. I can still do counseling with them if they want to talk about issues and problems. But we have just got a person on our board who is a doctor who does counseling. So I'm very happy about that, because this individual is very passionate about helping people with mental illness and substance abuse and things like that. So I'm trying to keep on the cutting edge of what's going on, but those are the immediate programs that we have and services that we have here at VetSway.
Thomas Coles Reyes, an incredibly inspiring story. And I want to thank you so much again for your service and all that you've done for people that have so many needs. And I certainly would like to speak with you after this show about what I can possibly do. But I want to thank you so much again for being such an inspiration. And it's only for people that truly inspire, and that you do as well as anybody I've met. Thank you, Thomas, for being on the show, coming on here today.
Well, thank you, Bruce. Thank you for having me. I never actually think about inspiring anybody except for my kids, hopefully. But it's nice to hear. If whatever I've said and whatever I've done, if that's going to inspire somebody to move ahead with their life, or consider not going into thinking about suicide, or deciding to do something positive for someone else, like opening up a program or something like that, if that I can inspire based on whatever I've said or what I've done, then truly I would accept that mantle of inspirational person. So,
and I want to thank Darius McDougall for putting us together, another very inspiring guy. And thanks again, everybody, for being here. Thanks for sitting in on this show. And please take some actions. Help some veterans, get in touch with Thomas, and let's do things together to make this a better world. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks again. Are you looking to gain a competitive edge? Imagine a tool that boosts your mental game to match your present physical capabilities. Introducing the ultimate headset, designed to elevate your focus, sharpen your concentration, and help you relax. With this cutting-edge technology, you can train your brain to visualize success, enhance your motivation, and reduce recovery time by creating a heightened mental state. It's like having a personal sports psychologist on demand. Join the ranks of top athletes who are already harnessing the power of brainwaves for that all important mental advantage. Are you ready to push your limits and be the best version of yourself? It's time to gear up and get ahead. Let's make those goals a reality. For more information on how you can get your game changing headset, drop a comment or send a message. Let's win this together.